Realistic landscapes, walkways, pathways, and building techniques shown in 10 different dioramas. With the Wild Western Shootout, this is a scene where an outlaw is shooting the sheriff who is riding a horse and just recently riding into town. And if you look back there, there are some townspeople who are like screaming and all concerned because they just walked out of the saloon with these swinging doors. And they're very nervous why they've walked into a shootout. One thing that I like about these saloon doors is I took some pieces and I'll link them right here. But these are some swinging saloon doors which I actually had from a Wild Western Lone Ranger set. So I used them here at the saloon doors. Another fun technique is this water trough, which I used these 2x2 snot plates and attached it to a large treasure chest top, and then filled it with studs. And then the bottom of this plate can attach onto the middle of this 2x4 plate. And let me give you a close-up of that. See right here, I put the plate into this 2x4 plate. Or sorry, the tile, modified tile into this 2x4 plate. And that's how it stays secure. As for the terrain texture, this I made it look like a muddy, Wild Western street. So there's some like holes with some mud or some water, standing still water. Then there's a few cobblestones and just pebbles throughout the structure. There's some flatter areas made with tiles for like smoother sand or smoother ground. And then there's some sand. So I tried making it like this dusty Wild West town. Then for the platform for the saloon, there are 2x1 or 1x2 log pieces. Let me pull one off of here. It's these 1x2 log pieces. These I used on their side to make it look like this platform has a bunch of long logs that all lead down the path. And then I also used those same 1x2 pieces for the top. The next diorama is this pirate's treasure chest cove area. There's a few different techniques going on, and here's the average scene where a pirate captain right here is rejoicing because he just found the treasure chest that he buried 20 years ago, which was filled with gems. One fun thing is that this treasure chest here is from a very, very old Indiana Jones set. Let me see if I can grab this here. So this is from an Indiana Jones set, and that's why it's this chrome gold treasure chest, which is actually pretty rare. So it's kind of fun that I have that. Anyway, the pirates have just dug a hole. This is the pirate that has the parrot, and he's the hole digger for the operation. And some of the techniques that I used is for the dock thing here. I took 1x4 reddish brown tiles and used these two holes there and there to attach it into the snot bricks. This is simply a 1x1 snot brick, and I attached them all on their sides into another 1x1 snot brick here, and then attached the tile onto the top. The benefit of doing this is that the plates are perfectly, and plates or tiles or whatever you use here, are perfectly separated how they would normally look at a minifigure scale. If I was simply to do it every so often, like let me show you here, if I was to put these tiles like this, the gap would be too large. So in order to make the gap smaller, I used 1x1 snot bricks on their side and attached the tiles onto the dock like that. And then, of course, you can just attach it into the water. And at the one more technique for this type of walkway building technique is at the end of all these snot bricks, I attached a headlamp piece onto here, because the back of the headlamp piece you can actually fit a brick into or a stud into there. So that stud right here fits into this headlamp piece like that. And then let me just straighten it up. And then I put it down like that, and then added a circular stud on the front, so it almost looks like a beam or a log. And then, of course, you can just reattach it. Scene is the Separatists are attacking the clone base here. And this is like a little ambush where both of the droids are on either side of the doorway and the clone is rushing to where the breach in the ship happened. The only techniques that I used here were these grill plates for the walkway, and then by putting a black base plate underneath these grills, it looks like there's a big empty space underneath this floor here. I also made it look like the shape of a octagon, or actually six-sided, so that's a hexagon. So this hexagon hallway, and then if you turn it this way, this is another hexagon hallway, and that just makes it look more Star Wars-y or more like a spaceship. Next scene is a Candyland type scene with a interesting, unique pathway. And there's a little like leprechaun. He's not green, but there's a leprechaun standing at the gate welcoming you. But I used a whole bunch of just interesting colors and transparent bricks all inside of this wall to make it look a little bit like a fantasy slash princessy, some sort of castle like that. One interesting thing about the road is if I flip it this way, you can actually lift this off, and it's simply a whole bunch of tiles all attached together. So you can build all sorts of colored roads this way by just, not tiles together, but plates together. These are all a bunch of plates, and then just attaching them on their side, and then using a snot brick, as you can see that red snot brick there, to make the road go sideways. And that, of course, is similar to, I'd have to break it apart to put it back in, but using plates or tiles or bricks or anything on their side, using these snot pieces is a really cool way to add a lot of life or a lot of realism to your builds. Another cool thing is for the grass. For this build, I used all of these green cheese slopes to make it look like it's a whole bunch of like spiky, pokey grass, and just give it a little bit more texture to make the building look a little bit more fun. And then this is a top hat that somehow I got on a used Lego bucket, and I think it looks kind of fun, and this is a good way to use this hat piece because this guy really matches the color scheme. The next textured roads and landscaping technique is this dirt 2-track with Indiana Jones riding his motorcycle through it. There's a few fun little things and details. This might be one of my favorites just because it's kind of simple, but it's also such a fun little diorama. For the plants here, I took a seaweed piece, and I actually learned this from another YouTuber named Brick Sculpt, but I took a seaweed piece and attached all these leaf pieces onto it. As Brick Sculpt points out in his video, it does bend the Lego ferns just a little bit, but it still looks nice, and even though it causes the Lego some stress, a little stress in life is never bad. Okay, that plant's just falling off. So another thing for the 2-track is I used a 16 by 16 base plate for the diorama in tan color, which looks a lot like sand. And then this gives the appearance of a pathway through a jungly, foresty area that has been worn down and just shows sand now. Then I took all these 1x1 leaf pieces with some grass pieces to make it look like there is some grass growing up in that 2-track. So this is a really fun build, and it kind of makes it look like a scene from Indiana Jones, so I really like it. Textured roads and landscaping techniques is this diorama of a Persian prince walking along a path. I used some bamboo pieces with these ferns and these 1x1 round reddish brown bricks to make the bamboo, and then just use some simple 2x2 tiles for the sidewalk. This is a very common technique, and there's nothing too special about it. But one thing that's cool is I use these shield pieces to make the road look like a very expensive brick road. And that is interspersed with a few 2x2 light bluish gray tiles to finish off the edges, but underneath the sidewalk for some of these pointy pieces, I had to make it look like it went under the sidewalk because the edges of these are slightly rounded, whereas the tiles are not. So I wanted to make it look consistent. So I simply just covered up this last piece like that. And I think this is a very simple, but very beautiful looking little diorama with some fun techniques in it. Simple diorama is this nature picturesque little pathway with these purple trees on the side. I usually just make trees like this if it's just small shrubs by using these leaf pieces, these 1x5x6 or 1x6x5 leaf pieces with these round leaf pieces to make the top of the tree, and then use 1x1 bricks with a bar going through it, as you can see there, for the trunks. Then for the pathway, I use these ingot pieces, these 1x2 ingot pieces, to make it look like it's some sort of a brick pathway through a little tranquil park. And I really like how it looks. This was the first one that I built, and I was inspired by these ingot pieces to try to make some sort of pathway that would just be so relaxing and peaceful to walk down. Landscape texture and roadway scene is this, another very tranquil setting where a lady is sleeping next to a little pond. There's some frogs, there's a dirt path, and there is a bright orange tree. Now for the dirt path, which is the current main attraction to this diorama, I used a whole bunch of random brown plates and tiles to symbolize a dirt pathway. Typically, dirt is all different colors, or at least there's different hues and shades. So I used like some redder looking brown pieces, some more tan looking brown pieces, some actual tan pieces, and then some dark brown pieces, and some reddish brown pieces. I also made the pond look very shallow by keeping the base plate showing through it. So it looks like just a little shallow pond with some nice little plants, and just looks like a great place to relax and take a quick nap. Diorama is the exact opposite of tranquility, and it's an office building. There's a guy working on the computer. There is a little water tank here with some leftover water jugs there, and this guy is going to go fill up his water before going and sitting at his desk. One of the main features of this diorama is this wood floor. Similar to the dirt path, I used all the same colors, except for I'm running them all in the same direction. So this makes it look like a wood floor that you'd see inside of a building, or that you'd see, for example, I put it into my hotel, or I also use it in the waiting room of the vet office. Another thing that you can use for an office building are these little potted ferns, which simply are these 3 leaf pieces with 2 1x1 round brown plates into a little pot. And then you can attach that right to the floor of this office space to give it a bit more greenery. The last diorama is about a sorcerer, so I think it's a little too scary for my average viewer, so it'll be up on my Patreon for $2 a month. Thank you so much for watching my landscaping and pathway techniques and the 10 dioramas that I use to showcase the designs. If you have some sort of techniques or tips that you want me to show you in my next video, please let me know in the comments down below.